Hi, I'm Jen with Roving Crafters, and you found me at the beginning of my part 2 on learning how to knit if you're a crocheter. These lessons from here on are going to get a little weird, a little different. They're specifically designed for people who are pretty darn good with crochet and want to learn how to knit. So what you're going to need is some bulky weight yarn, some size 10 knitting needles, and some size K crochet hooks. Yeah, we're gonna start with some crochet hooks, and you're gonna need 2 of them. If you are a crocheter, the chances are, of course, that you're real comfortable holding the working yarn in your left hand, and we are going to stick with that. In the knitting world, this is called continental style knitting with your working yarn in your left hand. So I'm going to turn you into a continental style knitter. Knitting always starts with the row of stitches that you're going to work in your left hand, and you work all of these stitches off onto the needle in your right hand, one by one. And once they have passed from this needle to this needle, you're done with that row, and you take the new filled up right needle, it becomes your left. The other thing is, in knitting, each of these loops is considered to be 2 parts of a whole. This would be considered the front loop with the front half, and this would be considered the back half, the back loop. 19 out of 20 times, or maybe even more, you're only going to go through the front part of the loop. And that's what we're going to do today, because we're learning basic stitches. Normally, of course, you would use a knitting needle. I'm going to get you started off with a crochet hook. Just bear with me. With the working yarn in your left hand, pick it up and hold it however you're comfortable with. More than one way to do this, so whatever you're comfortable with will probably work. Now, with the hook in your right hand, we're going to go into this first stitch. We're going to go in from the left side towards the right, and we're going to take the hook. It's going to pass under our knitting needle like that. And that's important. You have to come in from this side, and you have to put whatever tool you have in your right hand to the back. Now, if you were a crocheter, and this was crochet and not knitting, you would bring your working yarn up and over the back part of your hook like so. What throws crocheters off, I think, is that in knitting it's the opposite. The working yarn comes to the front, crosses to the front, and then to the back. So make that motion a few times to get used to it. Bring the working yarn up and over your crochet hook with the yarn in the front of the hook. And then we're going to take this and pull it down and up and towards you, just like that. And then I'm going to take, with my right hand, my hook, and drag this stitch that's still on the needle off. And that is a knit stitch made with a crochet hook. It happens in 4 parts. Watch. You push through. That's 1. Push through. That's 1. Drag the yarn over. That's 2. Pull the yarn, the working yarn, down towards you. That's 3. And then off the left needle. That's 4. Happens in 4 parts. I'm having you start with a crochet hook because I figure it's a tool that you're comfortable with using, and it has this little hook on the end to help you grab the yarn until you get comfortable with needles. This should help you manipulate your working yarn. Push through from the left side towards the right. Keep your hook in the back. Bring the yarn forward, up towards you, to the back. Drag your hook down, down and up, and then the old stitch has to come off the left needle. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4. I'm emphasizing this because one of the common mistakes that new knitters make is they get to this point, and instead of dragging the old stitch off, they try and go in and start the new stitch without having finished the last stitch. Has to come off. Has to come off. If you were learning this in a Waldorf school, they would teach you this rhyme. In through the front door, come around back, out through the window, and off jumps Jack. Jack has to jump off. In through the front door, come around back, out through the window, and off jumps Jack. I've got 2 more stitches here. I'm going to finish this off. Ta-da! Okay. Well, there, you just made a whole row of knit stitches with your crochet hook. And one of the reasons why I had you do that is because when you're using a knitting needle, the anxiety is always that your stitches will slip off the tip and you'll lose them. Well, it's a lot easier to keep your stitches on with a crochet hook because there's a little hook on the end. So guess what? Let's do our second row with 2 crochet hooks. I know, it's crazy. But if you give it a try, I think you'll find that you like it. Remember, we had to take our old row, put it in our left hand, and we're going to take all these stitches off of our left and move them onto the tool that's in your right hand, one at a time. Go in through the front from the left side, cross with the hook in the back, bring your yarn up and over, then down, and off jumps Jack. Yes, you can knit with crochet hooks, and you will find that your control of the yarn is probably a little better than if you started with knitting needles, because these hooks at the end, first of all, they force your loops open nice and big and they keep you from knitting too tightly. They also keep the yarn from sliding off as easily. And let's face it, I mean, the crochet hook is a tool you're used to using, right? So make a few rows with just a couple of crochet hooks until you're comfortable with it. And then you graduate. The training wheels come off. And you start making your knit stitches with a knitting needle. Again, we're going to take the working yarn in our left hand. We're going to drag this up and over, just like we did before. But without a hook on this end, you'll notice that the working yarn kind of pops right off. Here's the trick that knitters have to learn. They have to learn to keep some tension on the yarn. Some tension and not too much. And then they have to control this loop and keep it on the right-handed knitting needle as it pulls down and pops to the front. I do that with my right index finger. And then off jumps Jack. Let's do it again. Here, down and over, and a little bit more tension than maybe you were doing before. Trap, tap, hold it down. Hold it all the way through this motion, and then off. Trap, and then off. Trap, and then off. I'm going to go through this row. You will get pretty good enough eventually with the tension on your working yarn that you won't have to trap. But it's okay if you do. You're a beginner. Once you've done a few rows, maybe with a knitting needle and a hook, you're ready for the big leagues. And it's all about the needles. So that's my how to knit stitch if you're a crocheter. I hope you'll join me for part 3, which is the purl stitch.